This video will talk about isolating a microbe and why this is important in the field. Remember, isolation is one of those 6 I's of microbiology, and it basically means, just like it sounds, to get one type or one species of microorganism, or to get it by itself. So let me walk you through the steps of how we would go about this. Let's say somebody came to the doctor and they suspect they maybe have strep throat. And we've all been there where the doctor takes a swab. What the doctor's doing is they're going to take a culture, a sample from the patient, and then they're going to spread it onto a agar petri dish that contains a solid medium. So what the doctor's just done was created a spread plate. So just like it sounds, means just spread the culture all over the plate. Medical professional will incubate the media. And to incubate basically means to put at the desired temperature for the bacteria to grow. And for human body temperature, that temperature is 37 degrees Celsius. So most human pathogens are going to grow happily at 37 degrees Celsius. So after about a day incubation, the medical professional may see a plate that looks something like this. And as you can see, there's a lot of different looking colors and sizes, little dots all over this plate. So what this plate is a mixed culture. Mixed, meaning many different types of bacteria. So back up here, a spread plate is often used for a mixed culture. There's not one specific species. Many different things grew here. Now, a couple other things. Notice all of these little dots on this plate. For example, this red one right here, which is pretty nice. This little dot has a name. It's called a colony. So a colony is one species of bacteria. They're all clones of one another. Each colony began with one cell, and that cell just kept growing and growing and dividing until it became over 1 million. Once it hits about 1 million cells, we can now see the bacteria with the naked eye because there's so many of them. So that's what a colony is. Let's say the medical professional is interested in isolating this one red colony, or basically obtaining just that one species of bacteria. The next step would be to take that colony and transfer it to another brand new, clean, fresh petri dish. This time, because they want to obtain that one species, they're not going to use a spread plate. They're going to use what's called a streak plate. So streak plate is used to isolate a pure culture. So pure culture meaning one species of bacteria, that one red colony. So here's how a streak plate would work. Here's a pretty picture. First, the microbiologist would inoculate the first third of the plate, as in A right here. And basically they would just inoculate that whole top part with a lot of bacteria. So they basically picked up from here and spread that little colony onto the first part of the plate. Next, they're going to sterilize their inoculating loop. They're going to kill any bacteria that's left on there. Next, they're going to drag from A into the second part of the plate, so A to B. Okay, so just like shown here, they're dragging from A into the second part of the plate, A to B. Basically, what this is doing is diluting out the sample to the next portion of the plate. Again, they would sterilize their inoculating loop, and then again, they would go from B into C, further diluting out the sample, sterilize the loop, and then lastly go from C into D, making sure not to touch this last part with the first, because the goal is to dilute out that one species as much as possible to obtain that pure isolate. So now that the microbiologist has spread the bacteria and created the streak plate, again, they're going to incubate. And think about for a second what you think the plate will look like. Here's what it will look like. You can see the first part of the plate has a lot of bacteria on it, as does the second. Remember, the goal of that microbiologist was to isolate just this one red colony. So you can see here, by the time they get into that third and fourth part of the plate, there are some nice pure colonies here. But you can also see there's a few undesired colonies, not red, okay, maybe yellow or whitish. Undesired colonies could be what we call contaminants. So a contaminant is an undesired species in our pure culture. So why would a scientist want to isolate this bacteria? There's many reasons, okay? Maybe they're a scientist and they want to research and make sure they're researching the correct species. Maybe in the medical field, the doctor needs to verify, maybe he suspects this is a certain pathogen, but in order to really verify it, they need to isolate it and get a pure culture. So remember, streak plates used to isolate pure cultures. This just shows the techniques I just told you about. So the streak plate technique used for isolation of pure cultures. Down here, the spread plate technique, typically is used to spread evenly across the agar and make what's called a mixed culture. Another thing you could do is what's called the pour plate technique. And this is basically where you add your sample, whatever you're working with, whether it be soil, a medical specimen, add whatever sample to the agar while it's in liquid form, and then you pour it onto the plate. Okay, so basically what you'll see is the colonies will be slightly below the agar surface. The pour plate technique is similar to the spread plate technique. It would be used for a mixed culture. All right, and this just last slide just further shows the definitions I just talked about. A pure culture being a single species, a mixed culture being multiple species, and contaminants, any unknown or unwanted microbes. The last part of chapter 3 talks about the different types of microbiological media. So media is basically the home of the microbe when we're growing it in the lab. Media comes in many different forms. There are hundreds of different types of media, and each one can grow different types of microbes. So first thing to know about media is it can come in 3 states. It could be a liquid in a test tube like these. You see there's liquid in there. And you might have seen something that looks like this before when you're cooking in your kitchen. You might have used chicken broth. In fact, we call a liquid medium broth. And a lot of broths are actually very similar to the chicken broth you would cook in, right? So there's a lot of nutrients in there. The bacteria love it. It's so yummy for them. So when the broth is nice and clear, as in like these first couple of test tubes here, you could tell that they are sterile or that there's like no bacteria or very little bacteria growing in them right now. And then as the bacteria grow, this is the same type of broth, except it's now all cloudy looking. When you see something cloudy like that, we call it turbid. The higher the turbidity, the more bacteria is grown in there. So these tubes have had a lot of bacteria grown in this broth. We would use a liquid medium very regularly in the lab just to grow bacteria. The second physical state is a semi-solid, which is kind of like almost like a jelly. It's or like a jello. It's like not hard, but it's a little bit harder than the liquid. So this picture shows a semi-solid medium. And when we would use this is mainly for showing motility of the bacteria. So for example, in this picture, in all 3 of these tubes, the bacteria has been stabbed right down the middle of the tube with that inoculating needle. Middle picture here, the bacteria is not motile because it stayed mostly where it was stabbed. In this picture, the bacteria may have some mobility because it has moved a little bit away from the stab. And then in this last picture, this is a very motile bacteria because it's fermented all the sugars and it's changed the media completely red away from the stab. The last medium is a solid medium, meaning it has a very firm surface, and this is where colonies can grow. And to make our media solid, we add a substance called agar. Agar is used to solidify the media. The reason we use agar instead of something like gelatin is because the bacteria can't eat it. They'll grow on it, but they won't eat it. bring it up to about 100 degrees Celsius to liquefy it. Then what you're going to do, once you've liquefied your agar, is you're going to pour it into the Petri dishes. And then you have to let the dishes sit for about 20 minutes to a half an hour, and they will become solid. When you get ready to pour your Petri dishes, you're going to notice that one side of the dish is like wider. That side is the lid, and it covers the side that you pour. Another important thing while you're pouring your agar is to not completely like open the lid completely or put the lid down on the surface here, because it could contaminate your culture. So some examples of commonly used media. So you could have nutrient broth, which is a liquid form, or you could have nutrient agar, which is the solid form. Nutrient broth will support a wide range of bacteria. So many species will grow on it. Common bacteria that are growing around your house, and pretty much non-pathogenic bacteria will grow on the nutrient. Most medically relevant bacteria are what we call fastidious. So fastidious, I like to say it means a picky. Okay, so they require very specific types of media to grow on, and they won't just grow on just plain old nutrient broth. A couple other terms that define media. A synthetic, or another word for it is defined. I usually think of defined media. This means we know the exact composition. The way I like to look at this is when you bake cake, you need to know the exact number of eggs, the exact measurement of flour. And if you try to go like play around above and below, your cake is going to come out really dry or really soupy. You need to make sure you have the exact composition. So that's a defined medium. The next is a complex medium. And this one, you don't know the exact composition. So it's not exact. So the way I like to think about this is complex is like if you were making your own soup. You don't care. You just kind of throw whatever into the soup. You don't count exact number of carrots and exact number of noodles. You just throw it all in there. You don't know the exact composition. So when we were just talking a minute ago about the nutrient broth, this would be an example of a complex. General purpose media means it could grow a broad range of microbes, but the microbes can't be picky. So not the picky ones. Like, for example, E. coli is not picky at all. It'll grow on any kind of general purpose media. Lastly, an enriched media. This is where those picky guys are going to grow. Those fastidious microbes that are very picky eaters. So an enriched medium will contain a specific substance that the bacteria really wants. Like maybe blood. Growth factors, meaning like a nutrient, a vitamin, a mineral that the microbe really needs. Some examples of enriched mediums that we commonly use in the microbiology field. One of them is called blood agar. We actually make this out of sheep red blood cells. A lot of medically important bacteria will only grow on blood agar. They won't grow on anything else. An even more enriched medium for even more picky guys is chocolate agar. Chocolate agar is not made out of chocolate. It's also made out of red blood cells, lysed red blood cells, and it also contains additional nutrients. Even more fastidious medical microbes will grow on chocolate agar. Some medias are what we call differential media. It's really important that you understand this term. Differential medias will distinguish between different types of organisms based on their characteristics. For example, remember this blood agar I just told you about? Blood agar is an example of a differential media. Let me explain why. In particular, pathogenic microbes are what we call beta hemolytic. Beta hemolytic means that the bacteria completely lyses. To lyse means to break. So the bacteria completely lyses the red blood cells, breaks them on the blood agar. And what you'll see is the blood agar will actually turn whitish because all the red blood cells are destroyed. So for example, Streptococcus pyogenes, it causes strep throat. This bacteria will produce beta hemolysis on blood agar. The second type of hemolysis you can have is alpha. In alpha hemolysis, the blood cells are only partially lysed. So it doesn't turn completely white, but it'll be like kind of greenish on the blood agar. So for example, normal flora streptococcus are typically alpha. So as you can see, a clinician could differentiate between strep pyogenes, which is beta hemolytic, and that harmless strep, which is alpha hemolytic. So that's a differential media. Gamma hemolysis, lastly, is basically the bacteria does not really lyse at all. So there's no effect on the blood agar. The bacteria may grow, but it doesn't really necessarily lyse the blood cells. The second type of media is what's called a selective media. Unlike a differential, which may show like a difference in color or a difference in blood cell lysing, selective will select for one or just a few specific types of microbes. Only the desired microbe will grow. The desired species grows. Let me give you an example of a selective media that we use in the healthcare field. It's called Thayer-Martin. Thayer-Martin, as you can see here, is a chocolate agar. It's used to isolate Neisseria. Neisseria is a bacteria genus that causes two things. It causes gonorrhea, and it's also a causative agent, one of the causative agents of bacterial meningitis. So for example, if a clinician expected one of these diseases, they could take the sample, inoculate it onto a chocolate agar plate. The Thayer-Martin chocolate agar selects only for Neisseria because it contains 3 antimicrobial drugs. Neisseria are gram-negative and they're diplococcus in shape. So the drugs on this plate will inhibit any fungus, any gram-negative rods, and all gram-positive bacteria, leaving only the gram-negative coccus to be able to grow. And Neisseria is one of the only gram-negative coccus, so it selects only for the Neisseria. Lastly, just to make everything a little bit more complicated, there are many medias out there that are both selective and differential. Here's an example. This is called EMB. This one's commonly used to test for contamination in drinking water of like E. coli or fecal bacteria. So here's how this one works. This media is selective because only gram-negative bacillus will grow on it. It inhibits any gram-positive bacteria. It's differential. Depending on the bacteria that's fermenting, it will change different colors. So like this one is a metallic green. This metallic green on the EMB, it's most definitely E. coli. Okay, and if you have E. coli in your drinking water, that's a bad sign. Some bacteria will turn a pinkish color, and sometimes there's no color change at all. So this might be a way for us to differentiate different types of gram-negative bacillus.